You're locked into the only podcast for Maine high school basketball. The biggest names, past and present. It's Big Time Hoops, the podcast, right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Big Time Hoops, the podcast. And doesn't get any more big time than a former Mr. Basketball, state champion, one of the best to do it. His name keeps on coming up, and we got him on the podcast finally. Robert Pilsbury, Portland Bulldog, Husson. I think you guys were the Braves at the time, right? Before they changed their name. What's going on?
Oh yeah, no, Husson Braves.
Yeah. What's going on? How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I see a lot of the podcasts and everybody that's going on. Love what you're doing with all the Maine high school kids, boys and girls. It's good to be on. So
absolutely. I gotta be honest right off the bat. So I got mixed emotions about this one, and I'll tell you why. So I'm from Fort Kent, Maine. I grew up living and breathing UMFK basketball. Like that was what I lived and breathed growing up. And when Husson would come to town, you were the bad guy. So as a kid, I didn't like it when you came to town because you guys would always beat us. But then fast forward a couple more years, when I got to high school, we went to I forget what the name of the camp was. It was a camp that Caruso used to run down in Castine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you were a counselor at that camp, and then me and my roommate, we had a Nintendo 64. So you actually used to come back to our room and play 64 with us, and I used to beat you on the stick. So like it all made up for all the pain you caused me as a Husson guy. I made up for it on Nintendo 64. You probably don't remember that, but true story right there. But back in the day,
that brings up memories, man. Those were the best days, going into all the kids' rooms, playing video games and stuff. Just hanging out. It was good.
Yeah. We'll talk about that because I'm sure you got some basketball camp stories because I'm sure like you probably worked a ton of that like in your college years, I'm guessing, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we'll get to that, but I want to go back to the beginning. So this man right here has been described as many things, but the way I could probably best describe it, you were a bucket before a bucket was a thing, right? Everyone says Pills could score the rock, right? So is that how it was from day one for you, or were you like a late bloomer?
Listen, I was a late bloomer. I would say I didn't really – when I moved from Arizona to Maine, I didn't really pick up a basketball until like 6th, 7th grade. And then I really it just took off with the Boys and Girls Club. I think the first one I did was a hot shot contest at the Boys and Girls Club. And I was on fire. Yeah. And then after that, it just stuck, man. I just stuck with it, played every day. And I didn't really like defense, so offense it was.
There you go. And you brought up something I didn't even know. So you weren't even born in Maine. You're an import from Arizona.
From Arizona, yes.
Yeah. How'd you guys wind up in Maine? What's the story behind that?
My grandparents moved to Augusta. My mom followed. We moved to Portland shortly thereafter. So that's how I wound up in Maine. So
how was that culture shock for you?
It was good. I can recall obviously not seeing snow. So growing up in Portland on Grant Street, when we first moved here, seeing snow for the first time, I was like, wow, what is this? So it was definitely a shock. But then you get used to it, as you know.
You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You got to get used to it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that you didn't start playing ball till later on. So I feel like a lot of people I've talked to that kind of moved here, they kind of played sports as a way to meet people and kind of get to know the area and stuff like that. Was that the case for you? Did you kind of just jump into sports as a way to kind of make friends and to kind of stay busy?
Yeah. No, I mean, so I obviously moving to Portland, I was at the Boys and Girls Club a lot in Portland. And, it was swimming, soccer, and obviously basketball. As most kids that grow up in Maine, you want, there's a lot of cold months and you want to stay warm and you get in the gym. And so that's where I kind of, fell in love with basketball is at the Boys and Girls Club. So
it's kind of late to pick up a ball. Like usually by then people have had like some organized basketball experience. Like your first organized basketball was like, that's real late really for that age, right?
Yeah, no, in Arizona, and recall, in Arizona, I mean, it's warm outside, so we're outside a lot of the times. You know, there's more to do outside, and obviously outdoor hoops was there, but it just wasn't something that I was going through at that time until I moved to Maine. So
I remember you for the jump shot. Was that the first thing that kind of clicked for you? Like, were you a shooter right off the bat? Is that kind of what clicked for you first?
Well, yeah, I wasn't that fast when I first started playing. I didn't have my quick first step yet. So, you know, Coach Miranda at King Middle School, he actually said, if you can shoot, you know, once you shoot, people are going to start coming out on you, then you can go by them quicker. So I wanted to develop that shot at the beginning. And then I was able to, you know, go to the basket and have success that way early on. So it just clicked for me. And again, like I said, I just fell in love with it. And a lot of people obviously in Maine were playing at the time. So.
Yeah, so I'm guessing since you fell in love with it, like you just ingrained, like that's what you did, right? And it was a little bit different back then. Like if you wanted to get better, like you go to the park or you just shoot in your driveway, stuff like that. It's a little bit different than what kids are doing now. Like how were you getting better? Were you the type to like go to the park and just play all day? Were you actually like working on your game at a young age, or what was it like for you?
Oh man, you know, all the kids nowadays, they ask me, how'd you get so good? I remember my friend John Hughes. We used to go down to Pleasant Street in Portland and all the parks, even in the winter when it was snowing out. We brought our shovels. We had our gloves on. We played all the time outside whenever we could. I remember the Y was shut down. Boys and Girls Club wasn't open. We'd go outside, shovel, and just shoot for hours at a time. I remember my finger. I couldn't feel my fingers for like days. But we just stayed outside. So it was year round for me at that point when I first fell in love with it. And it was rain, snow, thunderstorm. It didn't matter what the weather was when I first started playing. So
I'm guessing like compared to these young kids now, like you're like old school, right? Like they consider you one of the old school guys. And the thing that kind of shocks me, like as I talk to more and more like kids that are in high school right now, that they don't look for runs. Like they just want to get in the gym and get shots up. They don't necessarily go look for a run. Like, are you ever like go play? Like, don't be soft. Like go find a run. Like, do you get frustrated with these kids and like their lack of looking for, you know, the way you came up basically, like finding a park, finding a run? Like, does that bother you at all?
It does to a certain extent, but as you know, the times are changing, man. Yeah. It's not like before. I could go to Payson Park, Pleasant Street. I could find a run on any given day, and there's really good, talented players when I was growing up. Nowadays, I go to the park, the same parks, and there's nobody really there playing. So they're all training. You know, everybody's got Twitter, Instagram. They're seeing these trainers, and they got 2 balls, 3 balls, which is still good. However, I mean, for me, you can train all day, but then you got to play. You got to play against the best older people, you know, people that are just as good as you in games, pick up. That's how I think you're really going to improve your game. So
absolutely.
It's just different now, man.
It is.
It's just different.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Payson Park because, like, by the time I got old enough to actually, like, travel down to Portland and spend some time down there, I was like, where's the run? Like, I want to go to, like, the park. Like, where's the park? And they're like, you got to go to Payson. It's like, that's, like, the first place I kind of hunted out, like, when I was old enough to go there. When you started going to Payson Park, like, who were, like, the OGs? Do you remember, like, just they used to just run the court?
Man. There was so at the time, John Wassenberg used to go down there. He was at St. Joe's. He played professional. Warren Johnson was there. Tiger White, Tyrone White. Just a lot. Rich Henry. Just everybody was there. Anybody that was playing at the time was always at the park. They had grills. It was an all-day event.
I was going to say, like
a couple hours.
Describe the environment. Like, what was the environment like? Because not only did you have ball going on, but people probably like just there, like cramped in there, like watching, right?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, it was, you know, people had their portable grills. They had, you know, drinks, everything, and they had the They had their DJ. Like it was crazy. It's not like today. I mean, you drive by, you get a couple of people out there. You know, it was the place to be. That's for sure. Now it's not like that.
It's a little bit different nowadays.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I feel like when we're young, like we always have that one person that we kind of look up to, like, okay, I want to beat this person. Most of us are probably like starting off, I want to beat my older brother. I want to beat my dad. You know, you're always looking for that person to be better than to kind of challenge yourself. Who was it for you? Like, who did you kind of measure yourself against? Like, man, I want to be better than this person.
You know, it was actually, for me, once I really got into it, it was everybody, to be honest with you. It could be, you know, just to go back when I was, you know, obviously in high school, Jim Isacuzo, who was at Thornton Academy, who was lighting it up when I was a sophomore, a freshman, Salvaggio, you know, there's some names that, you know, I wanted to be better than, that drove me, that I wanted to, you know, I thought that I could be better than, and wanted to make sure and go against them and, you know, compete against them. I wanted to compete against whoever thought that they were the best at that time. And at the time, it was funny because somebody asked me the other day, one of my former players, you know, who'd you play against a lot? And it was my best friend, this kid, John Hughes. We used to go at it day in and day out. And, you know, we came to a couple blows here and there, but at the end of the day, we're friends. But he just made me want to be better, and he competed. That's all I try to preach to these kids now is compete against somebody.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be better than? And that'll drive you to want to be better. So
being from out of state and kind of just being like transported to Maine, you didn't really know like the Maine basketball scene. You didn't really know like Maine high school basketball, right? So what was like your first introduction to Maine hoops? Were you kind of like, okay, like this isn't bad. Like this is like a good scene out here.
Yeah, no. So when I moved here, I think I went to Jack Elementary School in like 5th grade. And then middle school is what really started to, you know, get into the whole high school stuff. And Coach Miranda, his son, Todd Miranda, played at Portland High School, went to USM. USM went to like the Final Four or won the championship at USM or somewhere along the lines. And that's when I really started to understand what Maine basketball was all about, and the tradition that's obviously in Maine, which a lot of out-of-state people just don't understand that. Right. Maine is a basketball state. You know, we have to be warm in the gym somewhere. And these kids, obviously today, they got to get in the gym, in which they don't really understand because there's only far and few in between that, you know, go on to play Division I and have an impact and, you know, go on to play professional. So besides that, you know, Maine has a rich basketball tradition for high school. So.
And you went to one of the most proud tradition, best histories, like one of the best programs in the state. What do you remember about your time at Portland, like coming in as a young guy? What was the culture in place when you came in there?
Oh, it was interesting to say the least. You know, we had some when I was a freshman. You know, I'd made varsity, didn't play. I think I played maybe in 2 or 3 games. With limited minutes, but the varsity team, these guys are, you know, I'm just a freshman. These guys are big seniors. I remember Mike Ham, you know, Dan Lambertys. These guys, it was just a different atmosphere than obviously middle school. 8th grade, it's what these kids in 8th grade got to understand is that when you go into high school, if you're trying to make a varsity team, you're not just dealing with 8th grade kids. Now you're dealing with 9 through 12. Right. And as everybody knows, your body changes. And some of these guys can be big. And so it's just a different level. It was good. It was eye-opening. And it just, you know, drove me to want to be better and improve myself so that I can be on those guys' level. So.
And being in Portland, it's not just Portland High. You got all these schools just concentrated in one area, like a bunch of great programs. What were the rivalries like at that point? I mean, obviously the rivalries are still there, but What do you remember most about it? I'm guessing it was some heated basketball. And on top of that, like, you were coming up at a time with a lot of talented guys in the city, right?
Yeah. No, it was I mean, the rivalries obviously with Deering, Chevrolet, those two in particular really stand out only because, especially with Deering in my later years, obviously with Canner Medley, Jamal, Katarina, Walter Phillips, and then with Chevrolet when I was younger, and you had Angelo Salvaggio, Richie Ashley, all those guys who I wanted to compete with and beat that drove me. You know, it was just so much fun to compete against those games you always look forward to. And, you know, the Deering game, those games were packed.
Yeah.
I remember the Deering games at Deering was packed. Obviously the Expos was a little bit bigger venue. Even that was packed at times. So those games were, I mean, even South Portland with Chris Markwood. I mean, at South Portland, I remember going into triple overtime. Coaches still talk to me about that game, triple overtime game in South Portland. That place was packed, and the fans did not let up at all. They made you they made you aware of where you were at. So it was, you know, those rivalries you'll never forget it. So.
You mentioned how things are a little bit different for kids nowadays with all the different social media they have and different things at their disposal. It's a little bit easier for these kids to trash talk, or nowadays it seems like they're a little bit more friendly with each other, right? Everyone knows everyone. But back then, like, do you have any stories of, like, trash talking, like, get the guys in the city, like when we played Deering on Friday night, like, I'm gonna bust your ass. Like, was there some serious shit talking going on? And to what extent did you have to, what did you have to do to actually get that word across? Because you didn't have, like, a phone to just trash talk someone on social media. So, like, how were you guys doing it back then?
No, so just so, like, we would all, obviously in the greater Portland, we would all go to, like, the YMCA. We'd go outside, we'd play. So we see each other, we still trash talk each other. However, I mean, during game situation, I recall, and me and my buddy Walter Phillips still talk to this day about it. We were playing at Portland High School, and he came up in the layup lines and was like, "You're not scoring any baskets tonight." And I think the first half I had 27, and he still regrets that because he was just a young kid at Chevrolet, and he's like, "I'm guarding you tonight," and just trash talking like that. But for the most part, I mean, it was kind of civil only because we see each other all the time.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, social media, especially like up, you know, central Maine, up northern Maine, you can't really use social media, you know each other and you're friendly or whatnot. But there wasn't nothing like in our state championship, you know, we played against Lawrence. We didn't have any social media. So we didn't really have that connection. So it wasn't, you know, any trash talking because we didn't know each other. Right. So it's different than what it is today for sure.
So you mentioned Walter, and Walter's name has come up on a couple podcasts now with some of the Portland guys. And we've kind of just mentioned his name, but not really gone into depth on Walter. I worked at camp with Walter 1 year, but it was a little bit past his prime. But everyone kept telling me Walter had bounce. Right? Could you please just show Walter some love and talk about Walter's game and his athleticism?
No, he had – I remember, he was a freshman, and I think I was a sophomore or junior, and we were at the YMCA, and he was trying to dunk. And he was just about there. The next year, however, we were at this YMCA. I hadn't seen him for a while. And he's doing 360 dunks, dunking over people. And then I go off to Husson, and he's now a senior, and he's on the news dunking on people. I'm like, holy. And he just had ridiculous athleticism, bounce. Thank God, because he can't shoot. Yeah, he can shoot a little bit, but yeah. I tease him about that too. But no, Walter he was a tremendous athlete, you know, basketball and football, I believe. So he's yeah.
Shout out to Walter right there. So you mentioned coming in freshman year, getting a little bit of playing time, maybe not what you had hoped for, maybe wanted more. When did things start to click for you? Because you mentioned later on dropping 27 on 7.5. When did the bucket start getting a little bit easier for you? When the bucket started getting a little bit bigger for you and you started giving people work?
Well, my freshman year, so I had, you know, there was so many seniors on our team. I just really didn't get in the rotation. My sophomore year, I started. Obviously, got a lot of minutes, and my freshman into my sophomore year is when I really took off. I was able to, develop my game over the summer, fall, and I think that my sophomore year, I averaged like 18, 19 points a game on varsity, started every game, went to the playoffs. But it really, obviously, when you get minutes, you're able to produce a lot more. Coach Russo had, all the faith in me right from the jump. He's like, we need you to score pills. You're going to have all the opportunity. So if he really believed in me, which even made it easier for me to do what I do. So.
What got you going as a player? Like, were you the type where you went into a hostile gym and the crowd was nasty, like that got you going, or was it someone talking to you, barking at you in your ear? Like, what got you going and just wanted to just get buckets, or was it just didn't matter where you were, who was guarding you, or who was talking shit? Like, you just went out there and got buckets.
Oh man, it was everybody. I mean, I literally I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to be the best as a freshman, sophomore, eighth grade. Like, I wanted to, just prove myself to everybody. And it wasn't any. You could have a South Portland shirt on or a Chevrolet shirt on. I wanted to score 30. I wanted to score 40, 50. I just wanted to get buckets on everybody and just win. So it didn't really matter.
Didn't matter. Just out there to get buckets.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so you guys eventually won a state championship your senior year in '99. So what was the progression like? Was it a gradual progression from your freshman year of the team just getting better? Or were you guys in the hunt the whole time and just finally broke through your senior year?
Yeah, no. So my junior year, I only played 9 games. 9 games or 11 games because I had torn my my cartilage in my knee, my left knee. So I thought if I was healthy, we lost to Chevrolet in the Western Maine finals, and we should have won. I truly believe if we would have won that game, we would have beat Mount. I think they played Mount Blue. Chevrolet ended up winning. That was Salvaggio's senior year. So I truly believe if we would have won that game, we would have had 2 state championships. And plus, if I was healthy, I think that we would have, had a little bit better record my junior year. But transitioning into my senior year, we had everything. We had the bigs. We had, Waxman. We had our guards, Sophie Philbrook, Anthony Russo. We had some young guys, Longstaff actually. I coached Coleman. We had all the pieces to be very good, and I knew that coming into my senior year. So I was pretty confident in what we could do and what we could accomplish.
Any close calls, or was it pretty much just sailed right through?
No, during that year, gave us a close call. I think we only won by 2.
Yeah.
I remember that game clear as day. They had Jamal. Jamal Caterina was, he was, I think, a sophomore, averaging like 25. Medley was there. So they had a really good team. Steve Stoltz, I think, probably had like 5 or 6 threes in that game. We couldn't stop him, so it got really close, and that was at the Expo. So that was the only close game. Other than that, I think we beat everybody by 20, 30, if I recall. So
stacked team.
Yes.
You mentioned some of the venues you guys played in down there, the Expo, the now the Cross Insurance Arena downtown. Well, for the state game, you guys traveled north. You guys came to Bangor, right? So it would have been your one and only game in the auditorium. What do you remember about the auditorium itself? Because it's not there no more. So all we can do is tell stories about it. What do you remember about the auditorium, your auditorium experience?
That place was crazy, man. We walked in. There was probably like 7,000 people. But what I remember about that the most, obviously we were playing Lawrence, and just looking up in the crowd and seeing all the Lawrence fans, every single time our name was called, they went silent. I think they turned their backs on us. They were just like, it was unbelievable the amount of people that were there. That at that time, that was the most amount of people that I had played in front of. So it was kind of nerve-wracking. The environment, the bleachers go like straight up.
Yeah, crazy.
It looks like they're like looking on top of you. They're definitely and I've been to almost every single gym, venue. That place is crazy. If you get that place packed like it was, you'll never forget it. I don't think there'll ever be a venue like that ever again, obviously. So.
Especially like with the big schools too, because like you guys would pack both sides all the way to the rafters, right? Like it'd just be packed in there. Oh
yeah, absolutely. And obviously I was used to playing at the Expo, and obviously the Red Claws play there. It's a big venue, but it was not Expo's nothing like the Bangor Auditorium. That place was crazy.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned some nerves, but you shook them pretty quickly, right? Because you guys won by it was like 15, 20 points, right? It wasn't that close of a game, right?
Yeah, no, it's I still talk to Coach Russo about this. We could have won by no disrespect to my guys, Justin Underwood, Jed Johnson, and Clement, because I like those guys still, see those guys. But if we had played majority of the game and stuck it out, I think we could have won by like 30.
Yeah.
So it was it was that my senior year. After that Deering game, it was pretty smooth sailing. So.
And that game, that state game is online somewhere. I saw it. Like I randomly saw it like a month ago. I don't know who has it or who posted it, but that game's out there somewhere. So you guys can YouTube that. Go check that out. It's interesting. And like I said, like you were talking about the fans, like just the environment in the auditorium it was crazy. So it was pretty cool to see. So you got your gold ball, and then you got some more hardware. So you got Mr. Basketball that year as well. Who were the finalists that year with you?
Ryan Rivera and Braden Clement. Braden Clement from Skowhegan, Ryan Rivera from Central, who I ended up playing with at Husson, and I want to say Levesque from Falmouth. Maybe I think there was 4. I want to say Levesque from Falmouth, who ended up playing in the MLS. Was a very good athlete. Falmouth was very, very good. I think those 3 were up the same time as I was. And I think I ended up beating, because I think Skowhegan had won one of the years that Braden was there. And I ended up, it was close between me and him. So
yeah, he was nervous. I mean, because you seem, obviously we could tell you're the super competitive side. You wanted to win everything, but sitting there, because they announced it at the McDonald's banquet, right? So you're just kind of sitting there waiting, and they call your name. Like, were you nervous, or did you kind of feel like, yeah, I got this?
No, I was kind of nervous only because, I mean, all of those things, even before games, I'd get nervous. I'd get nervous between anything. So not even the Mr. Bass, I was mad at one award that I did not get. I never got this award. It was the SMAA Player of the Year. My senior year, Chris Markwood got it from he beat me out by 2 points. His junior, I think he was a junior, but he beat me out. And I think that was the only time that I was really, really mad that I didn't get anything, get an award.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that we had the best team. I did everything for my team to, be successful along with my teammates. Obviously, just not about me, but he beat me out by 1 or 2 votes, I believe. And that really, when that came out, I think we played South Portland at the Cross Insurance Center, and I think it had like 35. And I made sure that, people knew.
Yeah.
I remember that game. I remember that whole situation scenario because we played them, and people were still talking. You're not the best player in the league, and this and that, and all my teammates said, "Hey, Pils, best player in the league is playing for South Portland right now." So I was like, all right, we'll see. And Chris Mark was a good player, and he's he's still one of my friends, and I talk to him every now and then. So it was no disrespect to him, but I just wanted everybody to know that, you guys, I'm still pretty good.
Yeah, so you mentioned you guys are still friends. If you guys talk nowadays, you still bring that up like, hey, man, that was my award, just so you know. That was mine. You still let them know that should have been yours?
No, we don't talk about that anymore. I'll let that one slide a little bit because, I'll just say how many state championships you won.
There you go. I was going to say you got a couple more trophies in the trophy case that he doesn't have, so it worked out all right for you. So obviously now doing the AAU thing, but I'm curious what it was like for you back then. So like, were you playing travel ball back then? And I'm guessing there was a lot less teams to play on versus there are now, right? It would have been a lot different back then.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's, AAU travel basketball really didn't start getting going until, 2002. So when I was in high school, we just had our own town team. I didn't even play for like a Maine Hoops or anybody like that. We had our whole high school team. And we were actually, that good to be able to play just with our high school team.
Yeah.
And then go compete in New Hampshire or, Massachusetts in these big tournaments that, nowadays we get kids from all over the state to compete against. So that's what we did. We didn't really, I think Maine Hoops was big at the time. They actually had some really good teams that they formed, but our high school team pretty much stayed together with my guy who's passed away, Gary Kokorian, who I love, was a great mentor to us at Portland. I'm a big Bulldogs fan. So he made us stay together. And I think that's what also benefited us, our junior year, senior year, and leading up to, winning a state championship. So
absolutely. So I know the goal of what a lot of the guys are doing now with these AAU programs is to give these kids exposure so they can go and play at colleges and stuff like that. What were you doing back then for exposure? And how did the college process work for you? Obviously you wound up at Husson, but what was that process like?
Yeah, so it was, obviously there were some coaches where we went to when I was in high school. But it was, I went to Fresno State. I went to Temple. I went to UMass. I went to some of these, big time schools for visits, and they had interest in me. I didn't at the time. Obviously you got to get SAT scores, and I wasn't a qualifier at the time. So I ended up going my first year to Champlain College in Vermont. It's a Division I junior college. So I played with, guys that were at Texas with Rick Barnes. I played with Jeremy Bishop, who actually went to Quinnipiac, who led the nation in rebounding 2 years in a row. And, as I spoke on before, the most people that I had played on at the time was at the Bangor Auditorium, and that was like 6,000-7,000. We went to Hutchinson, Kansas for the national tournament when I was at Champlain. We played that's in Kansas. So we played in front of like 12,000 people, which was unbelievable. And at that game, there was, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. Like when I was there, I had a lot of schools showing interest. After 1 year, I decided to, come back home and go to Husson. My former high school teammate, Anthony Russo, was already there. So it felt comfortable, and, I wanted to come back home. So that's where I ended up. So.
Yeah, and you played on some good Husson teams, right? And these are the teams that I remember from my childhood right here. So it was something you mentioned, Ryan Rivera, so you guys were the backcourt, right?
Yeah, Ryan Rivera was there, Anthony Russo, Quincy Lancaster. My big guys were like Randy Fletcher, Matt Breen.
Randy Fletcher. Yes, that's a name right there.
Yeah. So we had we had some really good players at Husson. We had some really good teams. So it was good.
Yeah, so you played high school ball. You played at one of the most prestigious programs in the state with Portland. You go to Husson, who's also got a very prestigious program. What was that transition like? What was that culture at Husson like? Obviously, a little bit different playing college ball, but still going to a good program. What was that environment like?
No, it was good. Coach Caruso kind of had the same style as Russo did at Portland, and kind of had the same, belief in me that, to give me the ball, to trust me right off the bat. As my first year there, going into a new team, kids that actually kind of knew me and who I was, they kind of trusted in me to give me the ball and let me create for myself, but also for them. And, right from the get-goes, they showed me a lot of love and made me feel comfortable. So it took off from there, right from day one, which helped.
And in my opinion, you've got to play your home games in one of the best gyms in the entire state, right? Newman Gymnasium. When that place gets packed, it's like a shooter's gym. It's like it's got nice soft rims. I don't know why, but I feel like you can get off the floor really good in Newman. So, what were home games like at Newman Gymnasium when the bleachers were packed?
Listen, when the bleachers were packed, and there's no other place, that you could go that would have that kind of environment. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but there really isn't. When you get, a tournament up there, or you get a St. Joe's up there, that place is packed, and the rivalries, they're real. They're, these guys, each team wants to compete and beat each other. So it's bragging rights for sure.
And you played in the Maine Athletic Conference at a time when it was really, really good. And pretty much every school in Maine, for the most part, was in there, right? So you guys were playing Farmington, St. Joe's, Fort Kent was in there. Umpy was probably in there. Pretty much everyone. And there wasn't an easy game on the schedule, right? Like you mentioned, just all these different teams, and it was just a really competitive conference at the time.
Yeah, no, there was good players everywhere. I was thinking back. The Tomlinson, I think, went to Fort Kent.
Yeah,
he
Sean
was
Tomlinson.
Really good.
Yeah,
he was really good. And I remember, MAC Player of the Year. I think he got it my first year up there, and I had to average 26 my first year, and he averaged a double-double. But I wanted to beat him too, and he was really good.
Yeah.
And I think he killed us one guy. I think it was either up there or at Newman. He had 36 and 20. And I think we had squeaked it out, but he was really, really good. He's another name. I think I was talking to Morris Young.
Yeah, shout out to Mo.
Who actually played up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, what happened to Tomlinson? Because he was really good. He big body. Kind of remind me of Zach. Played in the NBA. Big lefty guy.
Randolph? Zebo?
Yeah, Zach Randolph. Yes, reminded me of him.
Yeah.
He just got it done. He's big body and he was really good. So I remember that. I remember him. That was those MAC playoff games at the Augusta Civic Center.
Yeah, I used to go to those things too. Yeah, the MAC was so good for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's great. CJ Bowes at St. Joe's.
Yeah.
Right? He was there just loaded top to bottom. The entire conference was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what happened after college? I know where you're at now, but there's a little gap here.
Yep.
So from Husson to where we are now, fill in the gap.
Yeah. So from Husson, I just started, training kids. I got into a program called Yes in Portland. I branched off from there, became the director of basketball operations at Blue Wave. I grew that program to 30, 35 teams while I was there, till what I'm doing now. While I was just speaking of Blue Wave, I do this because a lot of people when I was growing up did a lot of really good things for me. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for those people who helped me along the way. And basketball has been, very good to me. It's provided me what I have with my family today. So and along those lines is, good people. So I wanted to get back. I wanted to start, getting more involved with AAU and helping kids get to college. So while I was at Blue Wave, I had, a lot of kids go to college that I helped. Teron Moss being one of them. They went to Maine. He's at Farmington now. To Leighton Bickford, who's at Maine. Will Mylans, who's at Maine. Logan Bagshaw, who's at Central Southern Connecticut. Zach Matero's at Farmington. So a lot of these got Nolan Haggerty, who's at Brandeis. A lot of these kids that I just wanted to get back to. It's fun for me, just being around the game. It keeps me young, and just being an outlet for kids.
Yeah.
Another resource to say, hey, I'm here. Let me help you as much as you need it, or if you need this coach or that coach, just let me know. To where I'm at now, Blue Wave and we parted ways. I'm now partners with Walter Phillips and MEBC, Maine Elite Basketball Club, and I'll continue to do what I've been doing. So this whole COVID stuff is crazy, though.
Yeah,
it's throwing a wrench in everything.
Absolutely.
That's where I'm at today.
Yeah, you mentioned how much AAU's changed from when you were playing to where it is now, but it's also probably changed a lot in the time from when you got involved with Blue Wave to where you are now with Maine Elite Basketball Club. What's the biggest difference you've seen in just that short time from when you started with Blue Wave to where you are now?
Just the tournaments, just the amount of tournaments that are out there. You really have to cipher through where you need to be for the level of talent that you have for teams versus where you ought to be. Because there are some teams where I've seen that I've gone to that we shouldn't be there because we're at a higher level. And that's what everybody, when we go to these national tournaments, which we've won, these hoop group events, they bring in like the top of the top talent, and the Maine kids were able to win. We won a championship last fall down in New Jersey that we probably, we're just, more, we're not athletic as some of these 6'10", 6'9" that you see at front line, and you're like, holy crap, we're about to get, run off the floor. But then fundamentally, we're out there, we're playing really good defense, moving the ball, doing the right things. Then we're up 30. So that's where, really started to, Blue Wave really started to blow up when we started to really win these tournaments and be fundamentally sound and show we do things the right way. So that's the same thing that we, transitioning to MEBC when we just played this past summer. A lot of those tournaments that we had won, that we played in, they're seeing the same results. The kids, if you truly believe in it, the kids believe in it, everything falls into place. So
you mentioned just trying to get these kids exposure, just trying to get them in front of these coaches so they can go and play ball at schools and stuff like that. I had Fritz Marseille on a couple weeks ago, and I was asking him, like, it's gotten better here in Maine, but we can still be doing more. And I asked him what he thought was still missing here. So I'm asking the same question. Like, what do you think we still need to get better at, or what does the state need to take these kids to the next level and not only get them at these tournaments and win tournaments, but to get even more exposure? Like, what are we still missing?
I think it's very difficult for Maine public high school kids to get the exposure because we're not Mass. We're not, a big city where they have these prep schools where, and a lot of, Maine athletes and parents need to understand is that even when we do go out of state, we're playing against even if our kids are seniors, we're playing against kids that have graduated not 1 but 2 years, and now they're in prep school. So they're not just 18, they're 20. Some of these kids are 21 years old who we're playing against, and these are grown men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and for us public school kid, the body changes. Once you're in a prep school and you have weights, you have nutrition, you have all of these things at your disposal, whereas in a Maine Portland high school, you really don't. It changes the whole game. And I think, unless Maine starts to develop more prep schools besides Lee Academy, Hyde, Bridgeton Academy, to get more prep schools like they do in, Mass and New York and all these other places, I think the development of kids in each school district, the fundamentals need to continue to improve. And I think it starts with a good feeder system. Like you'll see like head coaches, like Coach Conley in Scarborough. He's doing a very good job. He's, starting from, fourth grade, doing all these clinics and trying to get these kids better fundamentally, which will help them develop into better college players, if that's what they want to pursue. But it all starts with, the community and who really is invested in wanting to get these kids better. Because at the end of the day, you can still be 6'10", athletic freak, but the fundamentals have to come into play at some point. And a lot of our main teams that go on to win these tournaments, it's all because of the fundamentals that they have, the work that they've been putting in. Because, I can't think of the last 6'9", 6'10" person kid that came from Maine that, was doing work, Yeah. Dom Campbell, who just left, he's going to, Philip Exeter, was one of my guys that he's left to go to prep school. He's reclassified. So it's a new wave. It's a new, Brady Cummings, would be seniors this year and vying for Mr. Basketball. Now who's going to be Mr. Basketball? It changes the whole landscape of Maine basketball when you get the top players transfer out of Maine and going to prep schools. So now they're, in prep school and they're repeating their junior year. So it's a different culture outside of Maine. But as long as, like I said, as long as Maine has good people doing it for the right reasons and bettering them fundamentally, and being there for them, just a positive influence to them, I think good things will happen, continue to happen for Maine kids. So,
absolutely. So I want to get your sales pitch here on Maine Elite Basketball Club. I'm guessing you don't need to sell the program. I'm guessing the program kind of sells itself because you guys are doing so good at what you're doing. But if a parent came to you and said, why should my kid be in Maine Elite? What's your sales pitch? How do you sell yourself? Like, how can you relate to these kids and get these kids set up? Like, what's the pitch you would give?
Yeah, no, I get that question a lot. Why leave, why leave a different program to come to, Maine Elite? I've been there. I've done it. I've seen it. I know these I know if your son or daughter wants to play college basketball, I know these coaches. And you can ask anybody that does this, like Don Briggs and the Firecrackers, Brian Clement, they know these coaches. These coaches trust them. I have a great relationship with them. But also I'm going to teach them, like my high school coach, Russo, told me, this is your life. This is how you're going to be in a job at some point. You're going to have to be a good teammate. You're going to have to be a leader. You're going to have to follow direction. It's the same thing when you come join Maine Elite. You're going to have to take instruction. You're going to have to try to be a leader. I'm going to teach you those values that will transition into your work life, family life, everything on and beyond. So it's, and I've been through everything. And I can help any one of those kids want to be better at basketball, life, or whatever it is. So
there you go. There's a sales pitch, ladies and gentlemen. If you
there it is.
Get to a great program, Maine Elite. There it is. So before we get up out of here, I'm just going to hit on a bunch of random questions before we get up out of here. So we're going to stick to the kids. And I want to know, how often does a kid start running his mouth to you and you got to be like, look, all right, I may be a little bit older now, but if you would have caught me back in my day, I would have given you work. I know what I'm talking about. You should listen to me. How often does that happen where you got to kind of put a kid in his place? Like, listen, I may be a little bit older now, but don't get it confused. I would have took care of you back in the day.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you right now. I love this kid, Zach Maturo. He talk trash all the time. And right now, still to this day, I still got it. And if you have him on here, he'll tell you I give him buckets. Okay. He can't beat me one-on-one.
Here we go.
So whenever anybody asks me, I still, that shot never goes away. I'm still in the gym. I might be a little bit slower, but I'll still give you a bucket.
All right, there we go. We talked about just the time you came up in Portland, just all the talent that was in Portland at the time when we talked about going to Payson. So if you're going to Payson and you were bringing 4 guys with you, who's your 5? Who are you going to Payson Park with guys from that era, from the city? Who are you going there to run the court with?
With anybody that I can pick?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going with my guy, J.J. Emerton. I'm going as a big. I'm going with Topher Philbrook, who's a guard. And I'm going with Anthony Russo and myself. And that's it. That's all I need.
And you guys aren't backing down for nobody, right?
Absolutely not.
Talked about off the top your basketball camp experiences. I'm guessing you worked a ton of them. Do you have like a moment or a camp that kind of sticks out? And like the great thing about camps too is the runs as a counselor, right? Like now you get to just go hoop. Do you have any stories or memories of just playing pickup with other counselors that kind of stick out looking back on it?
So one of my favorite ones, and I still talk about this all the time with the kids, is that obviously when I was growing up, it was a Portland high school camp, and we had at the time the Portland Mountain Cats. I don't know if you remember them. They played. It was a CBA minor league team. Warren Johnson and John Wassenberg were on that team, and they actually came to a camp, and my high school coach called Wassenberg out and had me play one-on-one with him. And I beat him. We only played to 7, but I beat him by 2, and he was not happy. So he started playing. Yeah. So that was probably – and the whole camp was going crazy. And so that's one of the bigger memories that I remember from a camp growing up.
Right.
That's probably one of the most funnest ones.
I like that one. And you being the super competitive guy that you are, I'm guessing there was guys that came after you that, you know, got praise, got recognition, got awards. Is there one guy that you wish you could go back and play? Like just because you weren't the same age, you guys didn't match up. But is there one player in particular who came after you that you're like, fuck, like I wish I could have matched up against this guy?
Man, I wish, you know, obviously Medley's one of them. Ralph Mims, those 2 ring a bell right off the top of my head. But I would have loved to play against those 2. I mean, they played against each other in the state championship games in the Western Mains or whatever. And I remember the battles they had. And that's the type of atmosphere and competitive people that I wanted to go against. And obviously people still talk about those 2 to this day. Obviously, you know, Medley being one of them, one of the bigger names. But just those 2 right off the top of my head.
All right. And I got one more question for you before we get up out of here. So it's not, you know, this isn't going to help anybody now because you don't play anymore, but scouting report. How did you know you were in the zone? Like, what was it about it? Was it like 2 shots in a row? Was it a specific shot that you would hit? Is it the way the ball would go to the net? How'd you know that you were on a roll and you were about to get cooking here? Like, what kind of let you know that it was time?
So it wasn't a shot or anything. It was just my body. It was my body. Like I'd watch Allen Iverson, his crossover and stuff, and I wanted to have a crossover like him. So I had a pretty good crossover. I knew when I was, you know, going up, when I had the ball, if my crossover felt good, I knew when I went up, rose up, crossed somebody over and shot the ball, it was going in. If I could feel my body in the way that it moved, it was going to be, I'm ready to go. So it was all in my motion, my, you know, how I shot, how I felt. That's what told me, all right, I'm going to have 35 tonight. So.
Okay. And actually, that leads me to one more question. I'm going to feed off that one. So I want you to pick the gym and I want you to pick the player guarding you. If you got the ball with 15 seconds left in the game and you're going for a game winner, who do you want to hit it on? And in what gym do you want to hit the shot?
Oh man, that's Cross Insurance Center.
Okay.
I want South Portland.
Okay.
And I want Chris Markwood.
There we go. Okay. And what's the shot going to be? Did you have a shot? Like, what was your go-to move? If you had to hit a game winner, what are you trying to get off?
It's going to be in the left-hand corner. I'm going to start on the wing. I'm going to hit him with a crossover, jab step back, game winner, 3. buckets.
And then on the way out the gym, grab the SMAA Player of the Year trophy from him too, and just be out, right?
You already took the words right out of my mouth.
I like it. Perfect. That's how you wrap up a podcast right there. That's a question right there. I like that. Before we get up out of here, I always give my guests a chance to say their piece. Anything you want to say before we get up out of here? If you want to plug plug Maine Elite, or anything at all you want to say before we get up out of here, this is your chance. The floor is yours before we leave here.
No, I just want to, all the Maine high school kids, boys and girls, just, keep putting in the work. Find good people that have your best interests at heart. Trust in yourself and just get it done. Use good people as a tool, as an outlet, and best of luck to everybody. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And they shouldn't be afraid to reach out, right? Like, they shouldn't be afraid to reach out, the good ones that came before them, and pick their brain. Like, because like guys like you, like, you're just full of knowledge, and you just want to give that knowledge, right? You want to give it out to the next generation.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. If you've been there, done it, you should definitely want to give back. I mean, like I said before, Maine has a huge high school tradition, and these kids just want to get better, and they want people to look up to and trust in people that they, have been there and done it before them. For me, it's a no-brainer, man. I've been there, done it, been through Maine high school basketball, college basketball, help kids. So I'm here. Anybody who wants to reach out to me can reach out to me. Instagram, MEBC, Twitter, Robert Pilsbury, Facebook. I have so many numbers hit me up anyways, so I have no idea who it is, but I always reply.
All right. There we go. And actually, I'm going to hit you with one more real quick before we get up out of here. So on Wednesdays, which is going to be tomorrow, I always put up, we got next Wednesday, and I feature a kid who's going to make some noise this year. Real quick, give a name for us. Who can we look out for to make some noise once things get back to normal this school year here?
Oh, man. I hope that, they have a high school basketball season. These kids need to be in the gym and live through sports. But coming up, man, you have – a kid that's really going to, blow up probably is Brady Coyne, Falmouth. He's going to be somebody who's going to get buckets. He's another bucket maker. His brothers have been, but I think he's going to be the best Coyne for sure. On top of that, though, you got my guy Andrew Suez from Bangor.
Yeah.
Watch out, man. He's going to be, his body type is already a college-ready body. He's one of my guys. He's got, Division II Patriot League interests. So he's going to be another kid that's going to be one of my guys that's going to blow up for sure.
Shout out to Andrew. Another big timer. He came on the podcast too. That's another fellow big timer right there. Shout out to Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Robert Pilsbury for coming through on Big Time. Mr. Basketball, State Championship, and now Big Time, the podcast on the resume. He's done it all. He's done everything, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out and thank you for coming through. And make sure everyone's checking out all of our previous episodes out there on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. They're everywhere, so check those out. And see you next week for another Big Time episode of Big Time Hoops, the podcast. We'll see you guys.